Okay, so Katie Hill, Representative Katie Hill, has resigned from Congress. And, I gotta say this, man. When you are I should say this, the standard is higher for elected officials. It's much higher. And you have to think you have to think about this before you want to be an elected official. You have to think, okay, am I willing to up the ante on my standard of living? There are certain things that you can't do. There are certain things that are frowned upon where normal people can do. Now, I'm not saying it's okay to have an affair. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying it's even worse when you have, when you are an elected official and, the public pretty much trusts you. They voted you in. They're like, okay, this is someone of good standing. And then it comes out that you had an affair. And it's just very interesting. And so, I'm going to get a little bit into the article, but that's not really the point I want to make. I want to talk about affairs and cheating and stuff like that. Because, I was just curious, I was kind of following the story and I was like, okay, I just wonder how common is it? And I found some pretty interesting stuff. So, let me get into the article. This is from the Western Journal. Okay. Democratic Representative Katie Hill of California, the target of a House Ethics Committee investigation for an alleged improper relationship with Graham Kelly, her legislative director, announced Sunday that she is resigning. Such relationships are banned under ethics rules. Hill, who is openly bisexual, has also admitted to an affair with a former campaign aide who has been identified as 24-year-old Morgan something. I can't pronounce the last name. Morgan D., according to the Washington Examiner. Provocative images of Hill were also published online, including some in the Daily Mail, which defied a cease and desist order from Hill's attorneys to take down the images. The images included one in which Hill was combing the hair of Morgan while nude. Other images purported to show Hill with a bong. See, this is what I'm talking about. First of all, here's the thing. I'm going to talk about social media for a little bit. Here's the thing. If you want to take a picture of something, take a picture of it. A lot of people get in trouble when they post it. If you want to keep something for yourself, okay. But do not post it. If you think it could, just don't post it. It's like certain pictures like this. Okay, combing, you want to comb, your lover's hair while you're in the nude and you take a picture of it. Okay, go ahead. If you want to do that, go ahead. I just don't know why you would, want to post that. And, or, just even give anyone a chance. Let me just say this. There are certain things that you should keep to yourself and that no one else should know about. No one else should see. And then her with a bong. Come on now. It's just, if you want to do that in your private time, I guess so. You're going to be seen as kind of more of a bum, but you can do that if you want. But, I just don't get it. I don't get it. But you do have to ask yourself, am I willing to live at a higher standard? Am I willing to be looked at constantly? Am I willing to have, skeletons pulled out of my closet? Stuff that you may have forgotten about. I mean, when you run for office, especially the presidency, the higher the office, the more digging they do. And it's just like, oh my goodness. It's like, do I really want stuff to be... I mean, they interview old teachers, classmates, neighbors, principals, roommates. They go through pretty much everyone you've ever had, a decent amount of contact with. And it's just truly incredible. They do so much research. And now with social media, hey man, I'm going to say this, we're going to be having some candidates and we're going to be looking at their stuff and it's going to be like, oh my God. It's just going to be seen in a worse way where it's like, okay, it's a common thing. But when you are running for a position where you are elected to by people, the standard is just higher. So I will say this, when I hear about certain things like this, like when I hear about, affairs and things like that, to me, it's like, okay, it just looks worse because she's an elected official. Affairs are fairly common. They really are. It's sad. It's unfortunate, but it happens. So I did some research and it was really interesting what I came up with. Now, the only stereotype that I had concerning affairs was correct. And that was that men cheat more often than women, which is true. Okay. So I have multiple sources. So just stay with me. Okay. So this is, colorado.edu. This is from, April 4th, 2018 by Doug McPherson. Extramarital sex partners likely to be close friends and men are more apt to cheat. That's not really a surprise to anyone, I think. Okay, Americans who admit to having extramarital sex most likely cheat with a close friend, according to research from the University of Colorado Boulder's Department of Psychology and Neuroscience. Just over half, 53.5% of those reporting extramarital sex said they were unfaithful with someone they knew well, such as a close friend. About a third of affairs are with someone who's somewhat well known, such as a neighbor, coworker, or long-term acquaintance. About 29.4%. The rest of affairs occur with casual acquaintances. And that's something that's important to think about. It's not just the best-looking person that you have access to. When you have an affair, the first thing that happens is you need to have a connection. So it's an emotional affair before it's physical. Most times, the vast majority of affairs, it goes from emotional to physical. It's not just physical. It's like, oh, you're really hot. No, it's not that. Most of the time. And on the question of who reports cheating more, the researchers, Lindsay Lebrecht, I think that's how you pronounce it, a PhD psychology student, and Mark Wisman, a psychology professor at CU Boulder, says it's consistently reported more frequently by men, despite reports from the media and some clinicians that men and women engage in infidelity at similar rates. The researchers culled data from 9 years of the General Social Survey, analyzing responses from 13,030 people nationwide. The two researchers found that 21% of men and 13% of women reported infidelity at some point in their lifetime, and that this gender difference has been consistent from 2000 to 2016. Lebrecht adds that men are more likely than women to hold more favorable attitudes about extramarital sex, which that I found interesting. Another gender difference, among those who reported having extramarital sex in the past year, men were much more likely than women to have paid for or have received payment for sex, at about 12% compared to just 1%. Now, stay with me here. I'm not justifying cheating. But just stay with me. If you're a woman, you don't really understand how deep this sex thing runs with us. It is very, very, very deep, and unless you're a guy, you can't fully grasp it. So it runs very deep with us. We will pay for sex. We will lie for sex. We will beg for sex. I mean, we are just wired that way. I'm not condoning cheating. I'm not condoning affairs. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just saying it runs really deep with us. So the payment part, that's another thing that did not surprise me. Like, I mean, guys, that's why most prostitutes are women. Because guys are willing to pay for sex. Women will, but it's very, very, very unlikely. It's extraordinarily unlikely. Okay. But now, so let me go down, let me skip a few paragraphs. Okay. The researchers, now this is kind of interesting. The researchers say they also found that attitudes about extramarital sex are growing slightly more relaxed. We found that while most Americans still disapprove of extramarital sex, there has been a small change that may reflect more tolerance and flexibility in attitudes. That wasn't surprising. But here we go. In 2000, about 79% of Americans viewed extramarital sex as always wrong, and about 7% of Americans reported extramarital sex as wrong only sometimes, compared to 76% and 9% in 2016, respectively. So not that much of a change. But, it's still something. It does show that we are kind of, okay, the whole term, a hall pass or a free pass. I do know a few married couples who do say that once a year, they give their spouse, they can use that any time in the year, they give them a hall pass and they say, okay, you can cheat with one person in the year, and you can do it one time per year. And they do it. And these couples are they're younger. They're older than me, but they're still, relatively young couples. But I just found that interesting. Now, here we go. Now, this is from another source. This is from Robert Weiss, MSW.com. Okay, so he has two articles, one on why do women cheat and why do men cheat. Okay, so I'm going to start with the women and then I'm going to go to the man part afterwards because, the men I can expound more upon because I am a man. Okay, so why do women cheat? Even though most women who engage in relationship infidelity understand on some level that what they are doing is potentially harmful to both their relationship and their partner, they continue with their behavior. But why? Below are 10 common reasons for female infidelity. Okay. Number 1, low self-esteem. Women with low self-esteem, depression, unresolved childhood trauma, and similar issues may seek validation through romantic and sexual activity. If someone wants them in that way, they feel worthwhile, desirable, wanted, needed, and lovable. Now that is pretty interesting. But it makes sense to me. Because everyone wants to feel respected, everyone wants to feel appreciated, everyone wants to feel loved, everyone wants to feel complimented. In a woman's mind, and this is just from me reading books and just being in relationships myself, and just, developing my understanding of the female brain and how they're wired, it's one thing that it is important for women to hear. It's important for women to hear compliments. It's important for women to hear, I love you. You're beautiful. I think you're amazing. It's important for them to hear it. See, us guys, we naturally just think, okay, the woman, she knows that I'm attracted to her, and she knows that, I'm with her, and, she should automatically connect that with, I like being around her, I love her. But that's not it, guys. one of my girlfriends actually taught me this, and she broke it down for me. And she said that women have to hear it, and I was like, that is amazing. And she was like, and she explained to me, she was like, okay, there are some who need to hear it more than others. But she said, it's important that you say it. And it's not just the physical aspect, and it's not just the actual gift giving and stuff like that, but I need to hear the words come from your mouth, and you look me in my face and you tell me the compliment. And I said, okay. But yeah, low self-esteem is huge because, they want to hear, and they want to feel validated. Validation feels good. We all like it. It's in our nature. Some need it more than others. Some like it more than others. But we do need validation as humans. Okay, next. Revenge. Sometimes women feel betrayed by their partner, usually either financially or sexually, and they use infidelity to retaliate. Typically, women seeking revenge are not secretive about what they are doing. Loneliness and neglect. Sometimes women feel more like a nanny, maid, mother, or financial provider than a wife or girlfriend. They may use sex outside the relationship to fill the emotional void. And that is extremely huge. One thing that can happen, especially after a woman gives birth, the man will see her differently. Because it's like a person, we think it's like a person came out of your vagina. Like, we still love you, we still think you're pretty, but it's like, okay, our view of you has changed. And so it's not, after the child is born, it's not going to look the same. It's for most guys, the vagina is just not going to be as, I can't think of a better word, but appetizing. And so to me, that makes sense. So I think, you have to evolve the relationship, and I think it's on guys and women as well. I think women have to help us guys to, first of all, tell us how you feel. Don't just hold it in and just be like, just don't just bury it, tell us. And then we guys, we have to understand, like, okay, this is like, that's my girl. Like, I still have to take care of her. She's not just here's the thing. Before she's anything, she's a woman. Or I should say she's a girl. She's a girl. Okay. She grows up. She becomes a woman. Okay. Then, if things go in the correct order, she then becomes a wife. And then she becomes mother. So there are stages to the process. So it's not like now she's just a mom. No. At heart, above that, she's a wife. She still has these needs. She still needs that intimacy from the guy. So that makes sense. All right. Lack of sizzle. Some women miss the exhilaration of meeting, flirting, dating, and forming new relationships. They find their ongoing stable partner boring, so they chase the emotional high of finding and bonding with someone new. That's what happens. That does happen, with any relationship. You see them, and it's just the first time you see them, it's like, oh, this is great. They're really attractive. They're great. They're awesome. And then it just goes down from there because newness wears off. I don't care what you are. I don't care if you just made your first $1 million. The newness wears off. If you made your first $1 billion, newness wears off. If you're a guy and you got this really hot girl that you're dating, it's like, wow, like she's really fantastic. But then it still wears off because you just get used to it. That's natural. That's what happens. Lack of sex at home. I was reading a study earlier this year, and it said that married couples on average have sex 54 times a year. So that's about once a week, because there's 52 weeks in a year. And then you have an extra day on birthdays and Valentine's Day. So it makes sense. So once a week, Now let me get back into the article. As mentioned earlier, women are sexual creatures. They usually enjoy the physical act of lovemaking as much as men do. And they also enjoy the feeling of being wanted, needed, and desired. Sometimes women are much more sexual than their partner. If so, this can be problematic. Rather than end the relationship, they may seek a little sex on the side to meet their physical needs. Here's what we have to understand. Here's the thing. We were put on this planet by God primarily to do one thing. So he told Adam and Eve, be fruitful and multiply. So what does that mean? Okay, be productive. Okay, he told them to, have dominion over the animals and, the land. Okay, obviously procreate. And that was it. Those were pretty much the rules. So at the very basic level, it is in us to want to have sex. It's just in us. And so I think also some people laugh at this idea, but this is extraordinarily helpful. But scheduling sex is crucial, because what that does, first of all, it does many things. One thing it does is it makes your body get ready for sex, which is like, okay, so it's chemicals are changing and things are going on, hormones, all that's rushing. Okay. 2, you are setting aside specific time to do it. Because what happens is when it's important to schedule your day, because what can happen is you just go through things and you're just like, okay, wait, I got to do this. Okay. I got to do this. And then you're like, okay. And then pretty soon it's time for you to go to bed, and then you repeat the next day. So you need to set your schedule so you can be more productive. In that way, everything has a certain amount of time and you don't overwork yourself. So when you schedule sex, you're like, okay, this time is for me and my mate. That's what this specific time is for. And even parents, you got to do it. And obviously you guys know I'm not married and don't have kids, but you still tell them, you explain to them, and they do get it. If, the brain is exceptionally smart, but you just explain to them, okay, this is, you don't necessarily have to write sex. You just say, mommy and daddy time. You can do that. And you just say, okay, you see this time? This is time where you don't bother mommy and daddy. This is for us. Don't knock on our door. Don't ask us for food. Don't ask us for anything. Entertain yourselves during this time. And it's just something that's very important. So, anyway, let me get through this so I can keep going. Unrealistic expectations. Some women expect their partner to meet their every need and desire. When their partner inevitably fails them, these women will sometimes turn to someone else. Remember, people have flaws. You're not going to get everything you want. There are pros and cons to people. That's just the way it is. They're not going to be at 100% in every single place. That doesn't exist. So, it's important to tell your partner or your spouse, okay, you know what, these are the things I need. These are things I want. And then you talk about it and you try to help and build each other. Partner A has certain strengths and weaknesses. Partner B has certain strengths and weaknesses. You come together to try to build each other up and to make each other better, and you want to make each other better, as a twosome and individually. All right. Lack of female social support. This one I found interesting. A big part of healthy womanhood involves supportive female friendships and a sense of female community. Some women, especially those who experience maternal abuse or neglect, undervalue this while concurrently overvaluing attention of men. This can lead to infidelity. Wanting to leave a relationship. Some women who want to end a relationship find it easier to cheat, forcing their current partner to end the relationship, rather than ending it more directly or assertively. Other women know they want to leave, but they are not willing to do so until they've got another relationship lined up. Which I see that, to me, that's pretty common. I see that often, where I hear about people cheating and they're like, okay, they just cheat to get out of one relationship, and they're like, okay, that relationship's over. Okay, now, you can go about this person. And I never really understood cheating, especially if someone is already with someone. If someone is already in a relationship, and I want a relationship with that person, an exclusive relationship with that person, and I cheat with them, what makes me think if they're cheating on their significant other that they won't cheat on me? I don't understand that. And also, cheating is just way too much work. Okay, number 10, sex and or love addiction. Some women engage in a never-ending stream of sex and romance to self-regulate uncomfortable emotions and the pain of underlying psychological conditions like depression, severe anxiety, chronically low self-esteem, and unresolved childhood trauma, often sexual in nature. Okay, so that's interesting. So why do men cheat? All right, here we go. Okay. Well, let me go up a little bit. Okay. Robert Wise talks about, he gives a few of the stereotypes and a few statements that guys will make to justify their behavior. And I'm going to talk on these. I'm going to talk on these, and you're going to hear from a guy's perspective. Okay. Every guy, these are things that guys would say. Every guy wants to have sex with other people. When the opportunity arises, he takes it. Okay. That's not true necessarily. That's not necessarily true. There are attractive women everywhere. Humans have never been more physically attractive ever in the history of time. So, there are good-looking people everywhere. Almost everywhere, I should say. But, it's every guy wants to have sex with other people. That's just not true. It's a man's biological imperative to have sex with as many people as he can. Why should I be any different? Okay, at the very, very basic, most primitive level, you could probably make a case for that. But that doesn't justify cheating. You made a commitment to a person, and you said, okay, it's me and you. That's it. When you do that, you cut all others off from sexual activity. It's that simple. If I got enough or better sex at home, I wouldn't need to cheat. Okay. Even if you're not getting, as you would say, enough, that still doesn't justify you cheating. It just doesn't. Okay, because you made a commitment, and the question is, okay, are you talking to your partner about their performance? Let me say this, especially women, ladies, don't fake orgasm. It helps nobody. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help the guy. It definitely does not help you. You need to talk so you guys can understand each other's bodies. That's what's so great about long-term relationships and, being committed. It's just one person, because you talk, you learn their body over time. You're a beginner, then you become at the intermediate level, and then you start to master each other's bodies because you just know their bodies. So you need to communicate and express, hey, these are the things I like. These are the things I don't like. This works. This doesn't work. And, I could do a whole series on that stuff, but, that's not the point here. Okay. I'm not doing anything that most of my buddies don't do. If you don't believe me, ask them. Doesn't justify it. If my partner hadn't gained so much weight, or if my partner was nicer to me, or more attentive, or whatever, I wouldn't have even thought about going elsewhere. Weight gain is key. It does affect physical attraction. It's just that simple. That's just truth. Okay? It does. But that doesn't make it okay. Because you made a commitment. Okay, so that's some of them. Okay, let me get to the reasons. Okay. Immaturity, co-occurring issues, insecurity. It's over version 1. He may want to end his current relationship. However, instead of just telling his partner he's unhappy and wants to break things off, he cheats and forces his partner to do the dirty work. It's over version 2. He may want to end his current relationship, but not until he's got another one lined up. So he set the stage for his next relationship while still in the first one. Lack of male social support. Confusion about limerence versus commitment. He might misunderstand the difference between romantic intensity and long-term love, mistaking the neurochemical rush of early romance, technically referred to as limerence, for love, and failing to understand that in a healthy long-term relationships, limerence is replaced over time with less intense but ultimately more meaningful forms of connection. Looks fade. That's natural. Looks are going to fade. You're not going to be happy. Sex isn't all that's in a relationship. There's communicating. There's time spent together. There are various things that go into a relationship. It's not just sex. You're not just going to be spending time between the sheets. That's not what happens. Childhood abuse, selfishness, terminal uniqueness, unfettered impulse, unrealistic expectations, anger or revenge. Man, that's just pretty huge, man. Okay, I'm spending a lot of time on this, but I feel that this is necessary. Okay, so here's another source. Number 1 in 2018, who cheats more? The demographics of infidelity in America. Okay, so the stats are just a little bit different, but, it's still pretty close. In general, men, and this is from ifstudies.org. In general, men are more likely to cheat. Men are more likely than women to cheat. 20% of men and 13% of women reported that they've had sex with someone other than their spouse while married, according to the data from the recent General Social Service surveys. Okay, so that's that. But let me get into some demographics here. Okay, so 16% of whites, 22% of blacks, 13% of Hispanics. So that's interesting. So blacks, well, that's interesting. Okay. 18 to 34, 11%. 35 to 64, 17%. 65 and up, 18%. That kind of makes sense because you simply just have more time to do so. The older you get, the more people you come across, the more time you have. That kind of makes sense. High school or less, 15%. Some college, 18%. College or more, 16%. Democrats, 18%. Republicans, 14%. Independents, 15%. Those who grew up with both parents, 15%. Did not grow up with both, 18%. Religious service attendance, at least once a week, 14%. Several times a month or year, 14%. Once a year or less, 19%. Okay, cheating is closely linked to divorce and separation. Okay, so 53% who are, so there's 100%. So those that are currently married, 53% of those cheated on their spouse. And then 40% that are divorced or separated cheated on their spouse. And 7% that are widowed cheated on their spouse. Okay. Those that did not cheat on their spouse, 76% are currently married, 17% are divorced or separated, and then 7% are widowed. So this is just some interesting stuff, man. So, what's the big lesson? First of all, don't cheat. That's obvious. That's not okay. But talk to your partner, express yourself, express, your needs, your wants. Before you get into a relationship, you need to ask everything and talk about everything. Sex is one of those things, especially. Sex is the super glue of marriage. Okay, you need to find out, okay? Do you like sex? What does that mean? How often do you want to have sex? How many times a week? What kinds of sexual activities do you like? What types do you not like? You need to talk about all that. It may be awkward, but it's necessary, because what you don't want, and I think I've shared this story before, but I knew a couple, and they, one guy, he said, okay, we're going to be having sex every day, and if we can't do that, it's going to be every other day. And the girl said, once a month. Clearly that relationship wasn't going to work. It just wasn't, because you're almost at two ends of the spectrum, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. So, just talk about these things with your partner. Don't cheat. It's not okay. You made a commitment with that person. Okay, and I'll say this in terms of the weight gain, you can take it how you want, but I think it's important for couples to keep each other in check. Yes, you will age, your looks will fade, and you can't do the same things that you could always do. But it's important that you keep physical attraction is important. You want your spouse to find you physically attractive for as long as possible. Don't just completely just let yourself go. And it's just like, oh, they've been with me this long. They'll love me just as I am, or they're just gonna have to take it. No, that's wrong. That is wrong. I believe it's important for spouses and, partners to keep each other in check. Just be like, hey, hey man, your stomach is just kinda, it's getting out there a little bit. You just need to keep each other in check. I think that's what's important. I was in a relationship like that where I was dating this girl, and she said, we talked about this, and I said, look, I'm one of those people, and this is the same girl that explained to me about, how women need to hear compliments. And I was talking to her, and I said, look, there are things that there are certain expectations that I have of you, and there are certain expectations I want you to have of me. I want you to hold me accountable, at least physically, towards like, okay, your six pack isn't as defined anymore. Fix that. It's like, I expect that from you, but I will also in turn keep you in check physically. And she said, I'm okay with that, and I agree with that 100%. Fantastic relationship. Okay. So that was that. I don't think I've ever spent so much time on one topic, but this whole thing with cheating, man, cheating just irritates me. Luckily I've never been cheated on. I never have cheated on anyone. I think it's a disgusting and a horrendous thing to do to someone. If you want to just be with someone else, just say it, just express it and get it out. If you don't want to be exclusive, be upfront about that. Put it in writing, like, send them, talk to them in person, and then have it in writing so you can have proof. And I'm not, you guys already know how, I'm a Christian and my beliefs. I'm just saying, I know everyone doesn't believe this stuff, believe what I believe. But I'm saying, if you don't want to be exclusive, just tell them, hey, it's not just going to be just you and me. Okay. There are other people that that I'm physically attracted to, that I want to do stuff with. Be upfront about that. And then if you do that, you're good, because you did what you had to do. But don't cheat. If you want to be with someone else, just end that relationship, be honest, and move on. It may hurt, it may sting, it may be uncomfortable, but just be honest. But cheating, it's just, it's hard, man. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. So let me talk about Joker really quick. So Joker, over the weekend, became the most successful R-rated film for worldwide release, and it regained the #1 spot. And that was according to KTLA.com from October 27th. Now, let me say this. I haven't seen Joker. I don't really plan on seeing it. But people have been talking. They said, or at least around me, they've been saying, Joaquin Phoenix is probably going to get a lot of awards. And I said, here's the thing. I haven't seen it, but I don't think he will, simply due to the controversy surrounding the movie. I've heard nothing but good things about his performance. Great things, I should say. But, I just don't think it's going to happen because of how the left is portrayed in the movie. I just don't see Hollywood, which is, in case you didn't know, very leftist. It wouldn't surprise me to see him get snubbed. So I hope he gets awarded for his hard work, his performance. I may see it just to watch his performance, but Joaquin Phoenix, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets snubbed. I hope he doesn't, but that's just me. Okay, so that's all I want to talk about right there. Okay, I am tired of these gender reveal parties, man. I'm so tired of them. Not because of what happened here, okay? So a woman died from an explosion at a gender reveal party, which is horrendous. I mean, that's treacherous. That's absolutely treacherous. This is from CNN, a woman has died after an explosion at a gender reveal party in Iowa, authorities say. The 56-year-old woman, unnamed by authorities, was pronounced dead at the scene Saturday in the city of Knoxville. The subsequent investigation found a gender reveal announcement resulted in the explosion, and the woman was struck by a piece of flying debris, according to the press release. Gender reveal parties have grown in popularity in recent years. Feature expectant parents who find out and announce the gender of their unborn baby, often with guests watching and filming on the sidelines. I'm going to say this. I don't want a gender reveal party. Here's the thing. I would want to know what the child is going to be. I'll be excited for either one, especially my girls. Like, oh my gosh, my daughters, I can't wait. I can't wait. But, I don't know why it has to be such a big thing that you celebrate with everyone and you do this big thing that can very easily go wrong. I see these people, they do, and this is so stupid. They do the wife will, toss a ball filled with either blue or pink powder, and the guy pretty much has one chance, because once that ball hits the ground, the powder's going to show. So to me, it's just dumb. It's just dumb. I don't care. I don't know. But I mean, let me know how you guys feel about these gender reveal things. Do you care? Do you like it? I don't know. I just don't know why you would want to do it. I mean, yes, it's exciting. births are just, oh man, they're just some of the most beautiful things that could ever happen. But it's like, hey man, it's garbage overall. I don't care. I'm not interested in doing a gender reveal party. There was one in 2017 from the same article. There was another 2017 party in Arizona that sparked a wildfire that burned almost 47,000 acres of land and caused more than $8 million in damage. In Australia last July, a car that was used to belch out blue smoke suddenly burst into flames, forcing the driver and guests to quickly abandon the vehicle. Stupid stuff. Just unnecessary. And I'm going to be honest here. I'm not even big on baby showers. I'm really not. I see why they're necessary because, it takes a village. Babies are expensive. But it's just me. It's just me. Anyway, that's really all I have to say. I spent a lot of time on the whole cheating thing. But seriously, man, don't cheat. Don't cheat. And if you are an elected official, I'm going to close with the ending. I'm going to close with the beginning of what I was saying. If you are an elected official or you want to be an elected official, think about your standard of living. Think about, okay, do I want to be seen? Do I want to be held to a higher standard? Do I want my every move to be scrutinized? Am I willing to give up the things that I enjoy doing? Because even just the slightest thing, like people talk about this whole Ilhan Omar situation, which aside from being illegal with her marrying her brother and all of that and that just horrendous garbage, it grossly appears that she's having an affair with one of her, staffers or one of the people who, who's a political consultant. It's just not a good idea. And, as we found out, affairs are common. They happen. First of all, one is too many, but they do happen and they happen often. So if you want, I'm going to say this and I'm going to close. If you want to be an elected official, think about whether you truly want to be speculated at a much higher rate than the average John Doe or Jane Doe.